Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the best places to live and visit in the USA. This episode is going to be great for two reasons. LA, one of the greatest places in the world, and one of the greatest people I've ever met in the world. A friend of mine, John Campbell. How are you?
James, you are too flattering. What's best is going to feel like it's an episode of EastEnders or Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels with two English guys chatting about real estate in the US of A. How about that,
So tell us a little bit about yourself first. We obviously already know you're from the UK, but what brought you over to LA and what keeps you in LA? So tell us about yourself first.
Sure. So I was an actor. I still do a little acting, actually, for almost 20 years. I did over 40 movies and did a bunch of stuff in the UK, and just decided that if I wanted to take it as far as I could, then Hollywood was a place you have to be. Then I was fortunate enough to book a film over here. So I came over doing that film and I used it as a recon mission. And I just thought, the sunshine, the lifestyle, the opportunity, it was the right place in the world for me at that time. So that's what brought me over here in the first place. Then there's the whole visa scenario that unless you've been through it, it's quite a feat to get over. I'm happy to say I have a green card now. Initially, I had a working visa as an actor. And then after, I've been here for 11 years now. After being here for about 5 years, it's a grind. Real estate can be a tough profession, but the acting can be crazy tough. And you can be I did like 20 movies in my first 5 years or so of being here, and still was barely making rent. And the real estate had always been like a bit of a second string. I was an investor back in the UK, and I just thought, you know what, let me put some energy into this. And best decision I ever made. Really enjoyed it. And then the network that I built through the acting side of things, producers, directors, etc., became my marketplace and were my clients for my first few deals and now, actually. So it's been a good sphere of influence for me.
And where do you actually live now in LA? Because that's one of the things we'll talk about. Is LA is a massive place. So where do you live, and where do you really know and do business?
Yeah, so LA is a massive. If anyone doesn't know, it really is a massive geographical area. But we do business. I have a small team. There's 4 of us, and we have offices in Beverly Hills and Los Feliz. So Los Feliz is in the east. Beverly Hills is towards the west, in the middle-ish. And then I live in Venice. I live near Venice Beach. I was in Gold's Gym actually a few hours ago. So that's the whole west side covered. And then so we cover the whole area, which is quite unusual. But Venice is very cool, very sort of bohemian, kind of almost as cool as San Diego, right, James? And there's so many different flavors. So I'm sure, as in for you, lots of people coming in, where should I live in LA? And I'm like, there's 20, 30 great neighborhoods where you could live and be very, very happy. But it's just a matter of kind of finding your tribe and where do you want your kids to go to school? Do you want to be out? Do you want walkability to shop? Do you need to be near the beach? Do you need a view? There's so many variables,
Well, that's the thing with LA, as I've learned, is LA is very spread out. Really, it's not like London or New York. Everything is spread out, and there's something for everyone, as you say. If you've got a family, then there's places that you probably want to live. If you've got a lot of young kids and you want a bit of land, then Venice is not going to be the right place for you. Whereas if you enjoy going out for restaurants and being able to walk to different places and you like a really cool vibe, then Venice is got to be one of the coolest places in the world for that.
Abbott Kinney, the coolest street in America. That's what they call it.
I went there recently. Yeah.
I mean, super fun, but funny enough, there's also a massive homeless problem now, growing in LA, and Venice is one of those places, one of the epicenters actually. And I actually, I do work at a Gold's Gym. I was there today, and the whole city block, surrounding the streets around the whole of the gym is covered in tents on the side of the road. So in the whole of LA, the property prices are still massively going up. But in Venice, actually, they've gone stagnant and haven't moved and started to drop. I'm actually surprised that didn't happen earlier, but it is beginning to have an effect, you know.
Well, if anyone hasn't visited LA yet, I would say one of the best places and best things to do is to hire a bike or get a scooter, electric scooter or something, or go for a run from like Venice up to Santa Monica. It's one of the most beautiful stretch of coast I think there is. It's so fun. You're like, remember the first time I went there, back in the day when there were segways. We were going along and I saw Lewis Hamilton. For Americans who don't know who he is, he's the most successful Formula One driver of all time. He's a British guy. And his dad went past. And I was like, that was Lewis Hamilton's dad. Then Nicole Scherzenegger, I think that's how you say it. I always get it wrong. I always call it Schwarzenegger. She goes past, the Pussycat Dolls lead singer. And then Lewis goes past. And then we go into a restaurant and I see two actors. Haven't got a clue who their names are, but I'm like, they are famous actors. And it was just an awesome experience. It really is just full of celebrities. But I remember, talking about some of the amazing places to visit, first of all, as well, it's just awesome doing a tour of Beverly Hills and seeing all of the amazing celebrities. You can get a map with all the different names of all the celebrities, and it must be, there's obviously so much to do. You've got the Hollywood sign, you've got
I get asked by so like you, James, I'm sure lots of English friends and family and clients also coming into town from England and overseas, and they say, where should we go and what should we do? And I'll be listing those exact things that you're saying, and I'm like, oh, we're coming for a week. And I'm like, well, in 2 weeks you're barely gonna scratch the surface, depending on what you're gonna do, you know. But yeah. We're opening a new office actually, like a block from Rodeo Drive. But right in that epicenter of Beverly Hills, just a short while away, you've got like the Beverly Hills Hotel and a Polo Lounge, which is steeped in history. We throw some events at a restaurant there called Crustacean, or there's Mastro's, a steakhouse, so super high-end restaurant food and world-class shopping in Rodeo Drive. But that's so completely different to Venice, where you got people in board shorts and flip-flops, and you never know, you're walking down the street and, like you say, Robert Downey Jr. or whoever might just happen to walk past you. Or you go to Studio City, which has got incredible schools, again, very walkable, more TV stars over there. Great for families. We could reel off another 20 must-dos while you're here. Hollywood sign, the Walk of Fame, Griffiths Park Observatory, Santa Monica Beach, Baywatch. It's like straight out of Baywatch, Yeah. The lifeguard, we could talk about this all day long. So if you come to LA, give yourself at least a couple of weeks and you'll still barely scratch the surface,
Yeah, completely. I remember there's all the theme parks as well. Disneyland, technically everyone thinks it's in LA. It's not. It's in Orange County. But when I came, we did Disneyland, we did Hollywood Studios, Universal Studios, and there's just a ridiculous amount to do. You mentioned a couple of restaurants, but tell me a little bit of maybe some secret things in LA that you would do on a weekend that wouldn't be on the normal TripAdvisor list.
Yeah, so there's great health and lifestyle type stuff. So there's a bunch of amazing hikes. So yesterday I was with my wife and we did the Culver City Steps. So Culver City is in the west of town, not too far. I live in that part of town, so it's not too far from Venice, towards Marina del Rey kind of area. And it was like this crazy inclined steps cut out of a mini mountain, we'd call it in England. And it's like this crazy hike. So when you get up the top of it, I think it's called the Baldwin Hills Overlook. I think that's its official name. But the Culver City Stairs, what everybody calls it. And it's like an incredible hike. And people are very engineering. At the bottom of it, there's now a couple of vans that do like street smoothies and acai bowls and super healthy after workout drinks. So there's crazy hiking, Malibu, Topanga, Altadena to the east of town. There's a hike there with a natural waterfall at the end of it. So you get to the end of it, and the water literally comes down from Big Bear and the Snowy Mountains and stuff. It's the ice cold shower at the end of like a 45-minute cross-country hike. So these are things you might not see on TripAdvisor.
You know, my favorite place I've been to, Abercrombie is one of them. That's a really cool place. I didn't even know it existed till my wife went there about a year ago, and then she took me. And the other one in Malibu Cafe. That is one of the coolest places. We took the family there. You'd think something like that wouldn't be family. There's loads of families, really trendy place. You sit down on some fake turf. It's beautiful surroundings, and LA is just so cool.
Very very super diverse. Downtown is like a mini Manhattan. You know, most of it is single story and super spread out. And for the English people, I always describe it like, think of the M25 surrounding London and the suburban surrounding areas, and then it's something like the scope of LA, you know. But yeah, like you say, it's crazy diverse. Malibu, so downtown's crazy. Downtown's got crazy bars, funky little clubs, upmarket hotels with cool cocktail bars. It's like a little mini New York. And then Malibu is its own thing again. You know, is its own. Cindy Crawford, who's married to Randy Gerber, has got a restaurant over there. You could be sitting in there, and Clooney and his pals could be in there doing a tequila tasting or something, or rum, or it's its own little world. And Malibu, a couple of years ago, there was all those crazy fires, and you know, 50% of it burned down to the ground. And now to build there is at least 25% more. Fire insurance has like gone up from like 10 grand to 100 grand or more. And yet there's all these restrictions that has to be near a hydrant and access. So it's so much more expensive to build there. But during this whole pandemic, it's the place where everybody has flocked to, from not just from LA, but from out of state. So the prices there have rocketed. So the place that was on fire a couple of years ago is now back bigger, badder, and better than it ever was before, which is great if you live and work in Malibu. The only drawback, which is an awesome place, expensive, but if you need to get to other parts of LA, it's super tough because of the traffic, etc. You know, even now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's one of the things to talk about. The positives of LA, you could just go on and on and on. It's a great, cool place to live. I think generally LA is better for younger people. I just find if I wanted to retire somewhere, it probably wouldn't be. Normally, people who they've worked their really successful careers in LA, they often come down to places like San Diego to retire.
Yeah,
LA is
a great spot for people to.
Yeah, but LA is just such. I mean, if I was 21 again, there'd be a small list of places that I would want to go and spend quite a few years in, and LA is definitely one of them. So it's an incredible place to live. But one of the things I wanted to chat to you about is say, for example, you're a young family, you know, what areas would you look at for a family?
Yeah, well, it's really budget dependent. So LA is crazy expensive, especially compared to anywhere else. In most other parts of America, $1 million will buy you a 4-bedroom house with some land, perhaps, you know, something, wow, $1 million home. In LA, $1 million is entry level. I'm
going to show you what 900K gets you now. Yeah, just to kind of show you while we talk. Yeah, you can see that this is what North Hollywood. It's a nice place, but
that's beautiful. Like modern contemporary, that same place west, like in a. So North Hollywood is in the valley. The valley is about 10 degrees hotter, the San Fernando Valley, than the rest of LA City itself. So you must have in the valley. You want a pool and all of that. That is actually quite a find, James. That same house. So North Hollywood is good for families. It's cool. There's some other parts with some better schools I'd maybe recommend more. That's a great entry level. But that same house in, say, a Mar Vista, which is on the west, which is much further west, but also great for families, might be 1.6 million, 1.7. So North Hollywood is a great place to direct people to, and the really entry level people, like some of my friends were like, "Oh, we've got 500-600 grand. Where should I buy?" A couple of years ago, I was going, you know what, North Hollywood is really on the up. A lot of actors, a lot of not famous actors, regular actors who pinching, watching their pennies, needing somewhere to buy 500-600 grand. Now it's more like 700-800 grand, and that for 900 grand actually looks like that'll buy you something like that. It looks like a great buy. It was fine. That is a good part of town. Studio City is a little more expensive, also in the valley, but that is like Carpenter School District. There's a handful of really great school districts around the city, and that's in the top 3 public schools that you could go to. So that would be a great recommendation for somebody with a family. Hancock Park is very expensive, but another bit more affluent, but another great family area. There's so many neighborhoods. There's probably about 10 or so, James, where a family would be very happy. Good schools, some walkability. But I would.
Brentwood one that always comes up, but that's really expensive. A lot of the areas that people see on TV on $1 Million Listing and those types of shows, you're talking minimum $4 million just to get you a house like this.
Yeah. We have something in Venice right now that looks pretty similar, and that's 4.6, and that's in a market that's going a little bit sideways with homeless encampments down the road. It's bananas, mate.
And the funny thing is, we do a feature on this show. What gets you $1 million and what gets you 300,000. So this is one that's for sale. And as we talked about before, trying to find something for $300,000 in LA is almost possible. You ain't getting a house. You are getting an extremely small condo in a place like Burbank. And Burbank obviously is famous because it's got a lot of studios and stuff there. But you probably does it have good schools or anything like that in Burbank?
Do you know what? Burbank actually is another great one. We're talking about great neighbours for families. Burbank actually is another great neighbourhood for families. I lived there for the first 3 years of being in LA when we first moved there, and it actually has great schools. A lot of the studios like Warner Brothers, Universal are right there, and that's actually a great spot. But again, James, that's a great find what you found, because Burbank is more expensive than North Hollywood. That's a great.
These have just come on. So they'll be gone by tomorrow and probably will sell well over asking price.
Yeah, and if we're talking about, like you say, there's depend on their listing strategy. If we're talking about entry level stuff, that may well go 100 grand over or more. That's just a strategy to get eyes on the listing, yeah.
And then I wanted just to show one of your current listings, actually, just to show kind of what most people might get for 300,000 in some states in the US is your listing on Prestwick. How much is that for? And I'll play the video now.
Yeah, just under 3 million, 2,995.
Yeah, and how big is it?
Do you know, actually, this one is particularly big. This one is it was on public records at 4,700 square feet. It's like 5 beds. You could list it as 7 beds. There's so many parts to it. But we just had a Matterport done, and when we got those measurements back, it's actually 5,300 square feet. So it's actually a big one, you know. But it's a nice place. This particular place is perfect for like a multi-generational family because there's so many parts to it. You could have 5 or 6 people living there and not be under each other's feet quite comfortably, you know.
Oh, it does look nice. That's one thing I love about LA is there's so many beautiful modern homes in LA. The architecture, I really like how look at it. It just looks awesome. So
this one is it's in Los Feliz, and that's actually what I mean. When I'm in my office right now, we have an office in Los Feliz, and I think it's the gem of the east part of town, generally east side. So Andy, Joey, and Brad Pitt have a house here, or they did have, or they both. There are a lot of celebrities in the area, especially in the hills. But it's kind of hipster cool. Although it's affluent, it's kind of hipster cool. Like, you know, man buns and plaid shirts. And where we are in Hillhurst is like very like an English high street, very walkable, great coffee shops, little restaurants, which are now just reopened, thank God, for outside dining. But that's another great family place to live where you can actually walk around and it's not too pretentious, you know.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, John. If someone's looking to move to LA, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
Yeah, carrier pigeons are good. I like pigeons. You can kiss them, you can stroke them. They're friendly. John,
you are old, but you're not that old.
John Campbell Estates. If you just put that in, you'll find everything. And LAliving.net is our website. Also, JohnCampbellEstates.com. But yeah, servicing the whole of LA, from Beverly Hills to the beach to the valley and everywhere in between. Love to help, you know.
Yeah, I know if someone comes to you for help with real estate needs, not only will they get someone who's experienced, good at his job, but I know they're going to have good fun along the way.
I like to think so. It's all about the experience, right? Let's hope. Well,
if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up. All John's contact details and stuff will be below as well. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next show. Take care, John. Thanks for coming on.
Take care, brother. Later, mate.